We are pleased to welcome now Senator Walter Michel. He serves District 25, which includes Hinds and Madison counties. Hey, Senator.
Good morning, Gerard. Thank you for asking me to be with you this morning.
You bet. Thanks for coming on. So we had a lengthy session is one way to put it, the first one of the term. I heard so many folks in the Capitol say it was as busy and active as anyone they have seen. Lots of legislation that was debated. Some passed, some did not. But let's see, I know you still chair the Insurance Committee. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So tell us what came out of that committee that we need to know about. And I think some of this stuff, as we were talking earlier today, goes into effect July 1. Some of it went into effect immediately, depending on the nature of the legislation.
Yeah, we had a very active year in the Insurance Committee this year. We started the year with a bill that had actually been vetoed by the governor last year, and that dealt with the subject of prior authorization. And prior authorization is the procedure where the insurance provider gets the prior approval gives the prior approval to the doctor before performing a procedure, and that helps all three parties in the situation. The patient knows that the procedure is going to be performed, and the doctor knows the doctor is going to receive payment. And it sets up a portal. We had complaints that patients were waiting way too long to get their procedures approved, and some were delayed, and some people claimed that maybe the insurance companies were purposely delaying them to try to get the patient to just finally give up. And on the other hand, we had the insurance companies saying that the reason a lot of these decisions weren't made timely was because the doctors were not filling out the forms properly and were not providing all the data that was necessary. So we're setting up a web portal between the insurance provider and the doctor, and they will list what procedures require a prior authorization. And a good example would be if someone's arthritis in their hip has progressed all the way to where the doctor says, it's time for you to have a hip replacement. Well, the person wants a speedy answer to get the procedure done. And what we also want to have happen is when that doctor is talking to the insurance company, we want that orthopedist in this example to be able to talk to another orthopedist and not be turned down by someone who doesn't understand all the involved intricacies of a hip replacement. So we have peer-to-peer decisions between the insurance provider and between the doctor, and we think this will speed up the procedure. There's no prior authorization required on emergencies like a compound fracture as an example or a stab wound, but we did set up a timetable of 48 hours for non-urgent items and up to 7 days, 48 hours for urgent items and up to 7 days for non-urgent items. So we think we help move the needle on that to keep the procedure moving where there'll be speedy decisions made, and the insured who pay those premiums to get procedures like this covered will have their procedures covered.
Yeah.
We also, and that bill passed overwhelmingly and became law. The governor did not sign it. It became law without his signature, but there was not a single senator who voted against it, and I believe it was unanimous in the House as well. We had another interesting bill that came up this year dealing with peer-to-peer car sharing. About 20 years ago, the thought of you getting on the Internet and having a total stranger come rent your house from you through a VRBO or an Airbnb platform was foreign. But that model works wonderfully if you have a second home or a beach house. And then a few years later, we found out that you could get off an airplane and you could go on your handheld device and have a car waiting for you with the driver instead of going through the checkout line or getting a cab, for that matter. And that's, of course, Uber and Lyft, and that platform worked well. Well, now we've got a business that's competing with the Avises and the Hertz of the world, and that's called Turo, and that's peer-to-peer car sharing. Unlike an Uber, you would get or similar to an Uber, you'll get on the device and request your car, but you won't have a car and a driver. You'll actually have a car delivered to you to use for the specified period of time that you might want to use it. So you're literally renting a car from a total stranger. And believe it or not, in the urban areas, it's a popular way for younger kids who don't need their cars as much to turn that car into a revenue source, or at least to get some of their money back to pay their insurance and other costs. So what we had to do was pass legislation. The insurance companies really liked consistency in laws throughout the country, so we had model bills that we worked from. If someone rented a car in Vicksburg and then took it over to Louisiana, it's a whole lot better if we have consistent laws. So we tweaked those laws, and we gave the insurance commissioner, Mike Cheney, the authority to make any additional changes that might be necessary as it evolves. But they've been around for a while in the big cities.
So if someone, Senator, is interested in participating in a rental, as you described, from just a private individual, how do they go about finding what's available and doing that?
Would go to the app, just like someone wants to be a Lyft driver. They would sign up on the app. And so if you have a vehicle, or maybe you got an extra vehicle, there's a husband or wife, and you got a third vehicle that just sits there 90% of the time, you want to put it to work, you would literally go on the app and you would register that vehicle. You'd take pictures of it, just like a VRBO, where people would want to see what kind of vehicle they're renting, and you would sign up on the app. And you have a right to the consumer. It's good for the consumer because the people with the vehicles are going to be competing for the business. So if someone doesn't care if they've got a brand new fancy car, then they can rent an older car and save money. So it's just competition at its best, working in the free market.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is it the TURO app? How do you find the app?
Turo.com, I believe, is their website.
I think that's right. TURO.com.
TURO, yes.
Yep. All right. So tell us about the changes in the sales tax holiday.
Well, that's a bill that's had a couple of different changes to it. I introduced that bill in 2001, and at the time, there were only 3 states that had sales tax holidays. That was Texas, New York, and Florida. And we took what we thought were the best parts of each of those laws, enacted, and came out with a bill. But the attitude in the legislature in the early 2000s is not like it is today. Today, we're trying to see ways to cut taxes. Believe it or not, it took 8 years to get that something as simple as just a sales tax holiday bill passed, because there were a lot of people who did not want to vote for anything that resembled any kind of tax reduction.
Yeah.
But first, it involved just articles of clothing and footwear, and it involved sales on Fridays and Saturdays. Most of those states had sales on Sundays, but in order to get it passed, we scaled it back to just get it for 2 days. And then we amended it about 8 years later and added school supplies. Many people thought school supplies were included at the beginning, but they never were. And so just this last year, we have found out that many of our schools are starting much earlier, and our sales tax holiday was scheduled to be on the last weekend in July, and some of the schools have already started by then. And we also know that some of our school districts are going to a modified calendar where they're maybe out of school the whole month of June or the whole month of July. So we moved it up 2 weeks, and that's going to help for the school districts that do start earlier. And I tell you what, it's also going to help is our border cities to compete for those out-of-state shoppers. Our cities that border Tennessee or Alabama or Louisiana or Arkansas, they'd be smart to advertise their sales tax holiday in those papers, because we're going to be way ahead of the other states' holidays, and hopefully get that sales tax holiday shopper from out-of-state to come spend money in Mississippi. Also important to note that the world has changed dramatically since I first introduced this bill in 2001. Now we have something called the Internet and Internet sellers. Back then you had basically catalogs. You had an L.L. Bean catalog and things like that wasn't thought about, but now you can buy anything you want on Amazon. So the Internet sales also qualify to be tax exempt on this weekend.
Okay.
So we've extended it till Sunday also. So it's now all day Friday, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. And for your merchants that may not want to open on Sunday, or for your shoppers that are against going out and shopping on Sunday, they can get their computer and they can order, and they can take advantage of that sales tax holiday from their own living room.
Wow, got you. A major piece of legislation that did pass was a complete restructuring of the education funding formula. We eliminated and replaced the old MAEP formula with this new formula. What do you think about that?
Well, I believe most legislators would tell you that they understand it a whole lot better now. It's based on a simple base dollar amount, and to that base dollar amount per student, we add what's known as weights. You get extra. The student would get extra funding, and when I say the student, of course, it goes to the district.
Yeah. But
for categories like English learners, we have some school districts that have 10, 12 different languages taught in their schools. You get extra funding for gifted students, for special education. And also there's extra funding for sparsely populated rural districts, because the cost of transportation to get the students to the schools is greater than in a urban area.
Yeah.
I think most people will agree that it's probably an improvement, because I don't think there was maybe but one or two persons in the legislature who could explain the old formula.
I think that's probably right. Senator, always good to talk to you, sir. Thanks for coming on, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you some more. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. Have a great day, George.
You too, man. We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth studio.